Hey guys, and welcome back to Movie Files. Elliott and Morgan here to give our review for the movie A Quiet Place. So if you guys aren't too familiar of the package here, this movie was directed by John Krasinski, who I will always know as Jim Halpert from The Office, one of my favorite shows of all time. Stars his beautiful wife, Emily Blunt, as well as two younger kids that I'm not too familiar with the work other than the young gentleman, Noah Jupe from Wonder, but also Millicent Simmonds. So some newer talent that was in this movie as well. So if you guys aren't too familiar with the story, it's very basic. A family is forced to live in silence while hiding from creatures that hunt by sound. So we will just give you guys our basic thoughts on the film. No spoilers here. We're just going to talk about the story, the characters, kind of the technical aspect of the film, and then wrap up our score. So first off, the story. It's a 90-minute film. So Morgan, the question I have for you is, was this an engaging 90-minute horror film?
It absolutely was. First and foremost, I wanted to know what was going on in this world.
Yeah.
And then it really kept me on edge
for definitely.
What was going to happen next in the next scene or the scene that was currently happening. So, yes, it kept me engaged.
And I totally agree with you. I mean, a 90-minute film can go one of two ways. Either it can be a very long 90 minutes or a quick 90 minutes. I think this film does a good job of, number one, not giving too much away, but it establishes the world. You get to know the characters, and you feel for the characters as they're going through this,
it felt
these
like
moments.
just right.
Yeah, and it's just, it encapsulates, it just is a really good film, and you're engaged all the way through, which I think is great for not just horror, but just a film in general, which I think they did John Krasinski and crew did a great job of doing that, which kind of leads into some other positives here. There's not a lot of negatives, and we'll, tell you guys our score, but as far as another positive here is the characters. For me, I would say Emily Blunt. I've seen a lot of her work from, we were talking about in the car, from comedies like Devil's Wears Prada,
more
5 Year Engagement. Yeah, but then seeing her in like something like Sicario, which was a great turn for her, and then seeing her later this year play Mary Poppins. She is such a phenomenal performer.
So diverse.
And to me, I know you have your MVPs of this film, but to me, Emily Blunt really kind of carries the emotional weight and it's just, she does a great job. And then John Krasinski and the two kids are great too. But really, Emily Blunt was a phenomenal character to me. What about you?
Yeah. So I would say Emily Blunt, 100%. She really stood out to me. She was so just a strong woman in this film. And she did such a good job with her emotion. Same with John Krasinski. His relationship with those kids, I really felt like they were a family. And I'm just so used, like Elliott said, I'm so used to seeing him as Jim Halpert. So it's really cool to see him in a different light.
Yeah, and going back to the characters too, I did say MVP was Emily Blunt, but also that the young lady Millicent, she's a really great. This is my first time seeing her. Yeah. She has her own moments with each family member of the movie, and she just does a great job. She has kind of a arc. She's a younger. You would assume she's a teenager, and she's
preteen or something.
Explore the world and kind of be a rebel.
She's getting into that like teenage phase in a world where you have to be completely quiet,
which is to my next point. The sound design in this movie is impeccable. It's going to be remembered for me as far as what they accomplished this film with the sound design. It's so incredible. And also going back to our character Millicent, her being deaf, you get that from the trailers. The aspect of them playing with the sound design of her not hearing anything and the audio just cuts out versus what the world we're in, you need sound to know what's going on. So I mean, the sound design was great.
And it created so much tension in those scenes with her, and really scenes throughout. They did some really, really cool stuff.
This is a tense movie.
It is. And it wasn't always tension. Sometimes it just put you in the world and it gave you like bits of happiness and things. But I was telling Elliott as we were walking out, like I felt the need to be quiet. So it really put me in that world for sure. Yeah,
and I mean another thing too I want to talk about as far as the technical aspect, the way the film was shot was done beautifully too. I mean, again, shout out to John Krasinski and the camera crew. The film looks gorgeous, it sounds gorgeous, and I think those are the two things that I kind of walk away, other than the performances of the movie in a whole, but the technical aspect of this film really kind of sets it apart for your traditional horror film.
I agree.
I think of a film like, Don't Breathe, which is a good film, but I think, again, I care more about these characters than I did in a movie like that. But I just think the sound design and the camera work was just top notch, A++ in my opinion. Which kind of wraps up here with our final thoughts of the score, or the movie here before we give our score. My question to you, was it scary?
So it wasn't scary per se. I was on the edge of my seat. I felt tension. It was more of like a thriller, I guess. But if I were to put myself in that position, then absolutely, yes, I would be scared.
Definitely.
So yeah.
Yeah, and to your point, and to me too, like I said, scary, whatever, that's subjective, just like comedy's subjective. But I would say, like Morgan just said, if you put yourself in their shoes, that's when you're just like, what would I do in this position? Mm-hmm. I know, and that's the question I was going to ask, how long would you survive in this world? I think I would be like maybe a day, if lucky, especially with our dog, Thor.
Oh, he's a barker.
But just in general, We're
just
not
really
clumsy.
Quiet.
I would drop something and be done with in the first
But
day.
not even that. I think, in this film, I had so many different emotions just kind of like wrapping up. And it put me in a place where I even thought, like, what would I do if, Elliott and myself and Thor, or, even the rest of my family, like we were in this world. And it was just really... It was a beautiful story of like love too, I think, and what you do, what you'll sacrifice for people you love. So just so much emotion.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to think, is there anything, negative wise, and this goes for any film, you can obviously pick out 4 or 5 different things where if they would have did something differently, obviously the story would have played out differently. But I really can't think of anything negative in this film. The film doesn't beat you over the head about, okay, this is what happened here, this is how this happened, this is what happened. It's a very nice told film, and it doesn't feed you a bunch of stuff and overload you with information. It gives you the story. It's very basic, and I'm pretty happy with that, which kind of leads to my score. I'm giving it a 4.8 out of 5. The reason I'm not giving it a 5 out of 5, there are some convenient moments in any film, but there's some things that were convenient. Also, there's some character decisions that just frustrates me in some movies. But other than that, a 4.8 out of 5 for me. What about you?
I'm going to give it a 4.5 just because, I don't know, 0.8, 0.9.
Sure.
Kind of.
Was there anything negative that kind of...
I think
not giving you a 5?
Kind of the same with you. There were moments in the movie where I was like, do this now. It was just like a little frustrating for me. But that also creates tension, and it is needed.
Sure.
But I thought it was a really good film. I really enjoyed it.
It elevates the level of horror film. This is an intellectual horror film. Doesn't need blood, doesn't need gore. It doesn't need silly jump scares. It's just, again, putting yourself in a situation and feeling for the character. I think that's another big thing. When you feel emotionally attached to the characters, it makes the journey just that much better. So with that being said, 4.8 out of 5 for me, 4.5 out of Morgan. We recommend you guys checking this out. We saw it not in the evening, but we saw it in the afternoon because we didn't have we got some stuff to do later in the evening. So I would love to know if you guys saw this at a bigger, we didn't have a big crowd, which was good because I didn't want people eating their popcorn and nachos and making a bunch of noise because it's a very silent film. So I would love to know what you guys thought of the film. What was your theater experience like when you saw the movie? And just let me know in the comments. Let us know in the comments what you guys thought. As always, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, as well as Stardust, and some things to keep an eye out for. We will have I Feel Pretty review up soon, but you can also check out Blockers, which comes out this weekend. We have our review for a lot of other stuff, Ready Player One, so check that out as well. As always, guys, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next video.